That's the thing, is that you don't have enough people who can afford to be teachers.
Yes, correct. That is
And there's
correct.
not enough understanding within teaching, within administration. Like, I don't want a family at school. I don't want to be a part of the RAM fam. I don't want to be emotionally manipulated by a school to work more.
Yeah.
I don't want to be emotionally, and that's why people are getting out of education.
Yeah.
It's emotional manipulation, is that we could have a much easier life with more money
Yeah.
and less stress.
Yeah.
So F y'all, and you keep on putting more and more and more on those poor teachers that are trying.
Welcome to the Little Brain Campaign. I'm Dr. Lauren LaRose, a child and adolescent psychiatrist.
And I'm Jessica Eisenstadt, a licensed professional counselor.
We're here to be straight with you about children's mental health.
And we're not afraid to challenge the trends that are out there about anything related to kids.
And we're not afraid to challenge each other either.
If you're looking to be validated from two moms that are in the trenches, you're in the right spot.
Yep, no fluff here, just some honest conversation with a side of sarcasm.
Let's get into it.
Hello, Big Brains. Thanks for joining us on the Little Brain Campaign. We are your hosts, Lauren,
And Jessica?
and we have the pleasure of speaking with Sue Ranheim today.
Good morning.
So we are going to start by asking some get-to-know-you questions before we dive into all the exciting stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to pick first.
Ooh, this is exciting.
Yes. Okay, is this one, Jessica? Okay, this is one.
It
All
sure
right.
is. I mean, I guess I might cut it a little bit.
Okay, ranch or ketchup?
Oh no. Ketchup.
Ketchup.
Ranch.
Ugh.
I knew that. I don't know how I knew that. but
Gross.
I knew that.
Jessica,
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Oh my God, this is annoying. I should not have done it like this. Oh my God, Jessica. Greatest weakness.
Oof, you go first.
I like overthink everything.
You do. You overanalyze and
Yeah.
overthink every
And it
single
just takes so
word.
much, I know, energy.
Yeah, a lot of energy. I said mine earlier. I'm really bad at apologizing.
So taking accountability.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not great at that.
Wow. Yeah.
What about you,
I
Sue?
think that's a learned skill. I would say my lack of filter sometimes.
Oh, I love it. Bring it on.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a strength, in my opinion.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's never really worked out as a strength for me in my career.
Yeah.
But as far as my relationships, it's been a pretty big positive.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But career-wise.
Yeah.
And for a podcast, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
So let's
Bring
go,
it on.
ladies.
Yeah.
Bring it.
All right,
All right.
you pick the last
Me?
question. Yep.
Yes.
Dream. How do I want to spend my birthday? Like, what do you dream on spending your birthday? Does that
What's the
sound right?
dream way of spending your birthday?
The dream way of spending your birthday. Sorry, I'm still struggling.
No, you're fine.
For me,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say not a whole lot of plans. If there could be like waves in the background and some sand in my feet, that probably would be an excellent way to spend my birthday.
Yeah.
Agreed. Beach, massage, alone, no one talking to me or asking me questions.
I'd say 3 days, no kids.
Well, okay. So your birthday is for 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, yeah,
got it.
that's your present.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
your present.
3 days. 3 days. That's how long I need.
Okay. Okay. So Sue, why don't you tell us a little bit about your career and how you've gotten to where you are now?
Okay.
And then we'll get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, a little elevator pitch, if you will.
Okay. Well, I'm an educator, 27 years educator. I've been through a lot of different cultural events in the last 27 years. I've mostly worked with people who would be described as neurodivergent these days, but when I started,
Right.
that was not in the lexicon back then. I've always been a executive functioning kind of person, right? Focusing more on the skills inside of you instead of content-driven knowledge. And I don't know. I think that's pretty much my career. I've gone a lot. Like I've started a charter school. I've not started, but I've been, New Orleans went through so much, while I was teaching. And so I was at the right point in my career to, start programs and, change the direction of schools. And now I've moved to, from New Orleans, I've moved to Texas, and that's a different way of doing stuff in Texas. So I've seen a lot, I would guess, in the realm of education and parents, goodness, and good Lord. And just, I guess, the lack of consistency in curriculum expectations that I've seen in the last 27 years, I would guess. So
Yeah.
That's a good kind of.
Yeah.
That was great.
I've had to wear a lot of different hats in 27 years. Like it's not like a corporate job where you put your head down and you keep working. Like that's what I love about education is that every day's different.
Yep.
I'm very curious. And so you can really appease your curiosity inside of a classroom with children. They're the best on the planet for that kind of, what happened at this? And you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. So I don't know. I kind of like that. After 27 years, you have to have something that's deep inside of you to continue to do that. I think any job, it's not just teaching. I think to stick with something for 27 years is it checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, totally.
So, so we know that you've had quite the journey this past year, and it's been an enlightening journey as far as like failures in the education system. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey, and then like what are the problems that you're seeing?
Well, it's interesting. I moved to Frisco from being in New Orleans for over 25 years, right? And so cultural shift was bigger than you would imagine. I did not even account for it when I was planning my move, my jump. It was all about this and that. And I also chose a job through my arrogance instead of understanding what job I was going into. I was at a point in my career that I thought I could do any job on the planet. Put me in a special ed classroom because that was my jam. Put me in a special ed classroom, I will excel in it. And through that expectation and through that just nonstop, I mentioned earlier, the squirrel that drives your body, right? Through that, I got myself into a classroom that I was not capable of doing.
Not
and
equipped.
not capable. I was capable, but there's certain jobs in the realm of education that number one, no matter how much talent you bring into it, it's so encompassing of your life. Yeah. Right? Like I was working with low kids on the spectrum that were nonverbal, like low IQ, very poor self-regulation strategies, and they were beating the crap out of me and everybody. And it was like accepted. It was like I was new, so I would go with my principal. I'm like, they're beating the crap out of us and my aides and all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, that's just their disability. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. There's no way. There's not one disability that a human has that aggression is okay. There's just not, full stop.
Yeah. And you're not teaching, right? You're not teaching a life skill. So you're...
learning how to control your behavior, learning how to control who you are as a person is vital, right? It's vital. But when your hair's always on fire, there's not a whole lot of teaching happening.
No. Well, no. And that's what I'm saying. So you went to your principal to advocate for yourself and your principal for your aides and for the kids, all the people. And your principal responded with, well, that's their disability. And so when someone responds in that way, it makes an excuse for a behavior. And academic content, who cares? And this is an opportunity to build those skills within those kids about just how to interact and do life when they're uncomfortable. And you weren't able to do that because you weren't provided with the supports that you needed.
Well, I think that's true when I first got there. I took a job that I didn't understand how violent it was. Yeah. So I walked in and it took me a week or two just to stop the big eyes and go, what the have I gotten myself into? What the hell? I could have gotten any other job. Why did I choose this one? Right. And so just learning how to, but kids are kids. And I think that my biggest issue was just the lack of foundation. They were older, they were big like me, and just the lack of any kind of common language, common expectations between me and the kids. There was no consistency there. And it is like babysitting. When you get into these classes that are nonverbal, autistic classes, they don't have expectations. They're just try and teach them how to get along. And it was just, the whole entire setup was set up by a person that are people that have lost the ability to take a perspective of a kid that might be on the spectrum. To me, that's what's lost in education today, is that we so often are going into classrooms with adult expectations and what the adults want, instead of saying, where's the kid? What should we do? And I'd say that's probably the biggest change in the 27 years, is that we talk, it's such a buzzword, child focused, but it is a buzzword. I know. And I know that whatever schools your kids are in, they're telling you that they have classrooms like that, but they don't. You can't give a teacher a box and say, this is your curriculum. And then on the next hand say, but it's kid focused. No, it's not.
Yep.
It's standard focused.
Right.
It's standard focused.
And it's for adults. Like
right.
What we're doing in education now is not to educate our children. It's to appease our adults.
Yeah. And
let's talk more about that. Can we talk more about that?
Yeah.
Yes,
and like we've talked,
sure.
I mean, like Lauren kind of turned the light bulb on for me as it relates to this like academic trickle down effect. And we've like posted about this, and you can go, you say it. 'Cause it's
Okay.
yours.
So basically, over the last few decades, college enrollment has increased, which is great. But the problem is that colleges have had to become more competitive because of that. And so then high schools have to be more competitive to get into the good colleges because that increases their ratings. And then middle schools have to become more competitive to get into the high school, to get into the good college. And then before you know it, these standards have trickled down to the youngest kids in preschool. And so, there's so much focus now on these standardized tests. Like you have to make these certain scores in order to progress, in order to get into these certain colleges. And so it's like everything in education has become so geared towards these standardized tests, these scores that are so arbitrary. They're so arbitrary.
They're extremely biased.
So biased.
They're extremely, they're so classist to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are disrespectful. Like
Yeah.
they're disrespectful to human learning.
Yep.
Period.
Well, and it's
Full
like
stop.
not a good evaluation of learning or understanding of concepts, right?
Yeah.
It's just like how, it's so rote and standardized. Anyway, so we put these unrealistic expectations on younger and younger and younger kids. And then it's like we've lost like any love of teaching, learning. I'm sure I've never been a teacher, but I'm sure it's not enjoyable for teachers to like not have any control over the way they teach, Well,
I think that it goes, that's what's so fascinating, right, about teaching and education and just the world today. But what's so fascinating to me about education is just how dumb the people who are in charge of education
1000%.
are. Like
or is
it's
it dumb or is it just self-centered?
Or is it intentional?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I
it's
don't
kind
know.
of like we live in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
I go to Texas.
Yeah.
These people who are in charge of funding and this, that, they don't give a flying rat about kids. They don't give a flying rat about any of that. It's all like a talking point and other thing. And they don't know what they're talking about.
Correct.
Like the whole putting the Bible in the classroom. That to me is illustrative of how dumb education has gotten.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like
Yeah.
that's what we're that's the issue.
Right. That's the issue, and not
like I don't know.
Why don't we teach some direct instruction of reading instead of guessing? Like
Right.
we start at the early ages doing things that are not appropriate.
Yes.
Like you don't sit with a kid that does not know how to pronounce that and continue to allow them to say at instead of that with no correction.
Right.
It starts in your kindergarten classes. It starts with the philosophy of, well, we'll just let the kids go and they'll find the right path. And you're like, you are completely abdicating. You're like not stepping up to the responsibility that you have as an adult. And it's unbelievable how lacking of accountability adults have when they're dealing with children.
Shameful. Adults have, there's no accountability for the school systems. No. I guess charter schools have more accountability because they're state, right?
Well,
like,
they don't. They
don't, but like on paper, they do. But then you have other private schools that it's like there's really no accountability.
Right.
Well,
the accountability in private schools is, the money that the parents will pay for tuition. And so if you don't give the parents what they want, so you're buying A's, you're buying B's, right?
Yeah.
It's something that can happen, right?
Yeah.
And we know that because New Orleans has such a diverse community of schools. Like you have these parochial schools.
too many schools.
Yeah, you've got
Too many.
You've got these public schools that are getting their funding and it all comes down to money. If you think
Everything
about it.
is about the money.
Yep. Everything, and then they have and then you bring in the government that refuses to pay teachers. Refuses.
And the teachers, and it's the paraprofessionals. It's you know what I mean?
Everyone.
Like it's the
heavy lifters.
The heavy lifters. Yeah. It's like the kid diagnosed with autism who has a significant speech delay and like emotional regulation falls out of the window when an undesired transition happens. Who's who is handling that in the moment? It's the para. It's not the teacher, you know what I mean? And then they're paid like $10,000
if there's a para there.
If
there's a para.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah, anyways, keep going.
Well, I think that when you have that high stakes like college, like if that's the No Child Left Behind, which is truly the worst thing that's ever happened.
Dove into that.
Okay, we're doing that next.
Dove into that.
That is the worst,
The other week.
the worst piece of legislation that has ever happened in this country.
Correct.
For kids. This No Child Left race to the top, I think, is what Obama did.
Yeah.
And it's so.
God, I wish I brought that.
It's so shameful. It's so shameful to actually say, as a country of millions of people, to say, this is your track.
Yep.
You are going to college. And if you don't go to college, shame on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shame on you. You should feel shame for not going to college. And we have a shame-based educational system, not only because of the kids, but the teachers that can't make these crazy markers.
Crazy. Developmentally inappropriate.
They're good words.
Developmentally inappropriate. Academic expectations, behavioral expectations, across the board.
Whole nine.
Well, and then you set all these kids up for failure.
Yeah.
Right. That, there's so many kids out there that their talents, their skills are not going to be
Translated.
fostered in college. Like they need a vocational school or whatever.
Or what I've seen in my K-12, because I was lucky enough to do K-12 for a long time.
I love a K-12.
Yeah, and so I was able to see kids, like my own son just graduated from that school. I was able to see some kids from kindergarten all the way till high school. They graduated from high school, and that's an amazing experience to begin with. But you notice that the kids that get off that track, that the adults in the room say, oh, well, that kid can't. When you start saying can't about certain kids, those are the kids that mature later, right?
Yeah.
Those are the kids that you crumble their self-esteem in third grade, and then you expect them to excel in high school.
Yeah.
So when you mean can't, like, give me an example.
I think that there's that, like, oh, Johnny can't read that, or they can't do that, or that can't happen. Like, you never, as a teacher, like I was always taught, I'm a dinosaur, but there is no can't.
You're not.
There is no can't. In a classroom.
Right.
There is no can't when you're even my kids that I had last year that were so greatly impacted by autism.
Yeah.
I understood, and before I stroked out, I understood that it was my consistency as the adult in the room that was the single most important factor for the kids. And I used to tell my administrator, who really did not really enjoy the fact that they employed me, like, because that's what
Well,
happens.
because you're now you're a mirror. No one wants to see themselves.
Well, that's true, but also, like, nobody wants a veteran teacher in their classroom. No one wants the teacher that said, "I've been through this cycle. I've done this program. This program is stupid.
You know too much.
You know
way too much,
and you're going to challenge."
And then I had a behavior. I did behavior for years at my charter school, and I was in a classroom with behavior issues, and which is why I took that job. I was like, I should rock this job, right? And I had this behavior coach that kept on telling me to do these skills and do these strategies. I'm like, that's going to actually increase behavior. That's going to increase this kid's behavior. I'm not doing that.
What that? Give me an example.
Okay. I will give you an example.
Yeah, you better.
I've got
give me
example.
Give me an example of this behavioral coach intervention.
This is the thing. Like, we need to, when a kid explodes, we need to talk them off the ledge. We need to show them how.
Idiot.
We need to show them how to manage their emotions.
God,
I
hate
need
that
to
person
take
so
the
much.
most powerful person in the classroom, which is me.
Right.
And I need to misbehave. That kid's going to misbehave. And then that kid's going to take me away from everyone else.
Right.
And and focus my attention on the bad behaved kid. Are you
reinforces the behavior?
But also if a kid is in crisis, because they are, when they're emotionally dysregulated like that, they are not thinking. They do not have the ability to process information or get feedback from anybody that's rational. So matching that energy or trying to teach in an unteachable moment sets the whole class up for failure.
Yep.
Well, and it's like, you wonder, like, did nobody take basic psychology courses where, like,
No, they didn't.
learn, a behavior? It's like you try to prevent escalations
Yes.
as much as you can.
Preventative,
But
yep.
then once an escalation has happened, the worst thing you can do is intervene in the midst of the escalation.
Talking to the choir.
Right?
Talking
like,
to the choir.
You have to wait for it
Lord.
to de-escalate and then you intervene. Like that was like psychology 101.
And so this is how they set up that classroom. So there was a main classroom.
What grade was like? I need like an age.
It was 8, 9, 10-year-olds. So
like
they were
third.
getting on. They were getting on body. Like it wasn't like
Yeah.
they could. Like when they came at you,
yeah.
it hurt.
Yeah. What grade is that? 8, 9, 10?
That's third, fourth, fifth.
Third, fourth, fifth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I had a room, a main room, and then I had this thing called a chill out room.
Right.
But nobody used it. Like
Right.
the people before me weren't using it. And I was like, F that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to misbehave. So I ended up being the bouncer in the classroom. So when they would go and attack
muscle.
one of my aides, because they tried once or twice, but they know, like, it's so primal, right?
Yes.
When you teach,
Yeah.
it's
No,
so
1,000.
primal. And so I was total alpha, right?
Yeah.
And so when I would engage with them, I would take them, boom, put them right into that
Yeah.
chill out room, and I'd close the door. Not close the door because you can't, because that's illegal.
Yeah. Right.
But so I never did that. But
Is it illegal? Hold
it's
on.
not good to put a kid that's in crisis alone in a classroom, in a padded classroom. You
Oh,
cannot do that. Can't
yeah.
do that. And it wasn't padded, but. And they wouldn't let me, like, anyway, there's so many reasons that it was wrong. But
Yeah.
the issue is that they really wanted you to sit down and debrief with kids with an IQ of 90. Are you
Right.
effing kidding me?
Right.
And so, like, the issue is, like I said to my principal, and this got me in trouble, but this is the first step. But I said, look, if I can teach a pit bull not to bite a person, I should be able to teach these kids how not to fight.
Yep.
Full stop.
Yep.
Like, full stop. And the way we're handling this behavior is increasing behavior. No, it's not. Okay, here's my data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my data. I did it your way for a week. Mm-hmm. And how many times did you have to call the crisis team to my classroom? 10.
Yeah.
Right.
10. I did it my way 2 times.
Yep.
I don't care what you say. I don't care what your policies are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is where the administration is really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they're not listening to you.
Or
The
or
expert.
it's all about, I think the issue also is they're so effing scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talked a lot about
And
optics.
they
Yeah.
have to follow the policy, even
Yeah.
though policy was made by idiots.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
So-
who made those policies?
Yep. And then you have these people constantly coming in, at least last year. And I was one of those people. I'm not ashamed to think about my career and how many times I went into teachers' classrooms and I was like, me. But, because I was on this side of it and on the teacher side of it, and just really thinking that, the issue is that I could get your support, I could get this and that, but it's so draining. It's so like I have to take data over here. I've got to manage that crisis over there. I've got to do this stupid paperwork that no one reads.
Yeah.
When I
No one
tell
reading
you,
that.
I spent hours on paperwork to nowhere.
I know.
Yeah.
To nowhere.
You can't change. So I also worked in a charter school for about 8 years. And like same thing, sped, all of that. I was a therapist. Anyways, but there's no point. Like it got to the point where I was like, all right, well, like I'm flatlining because I'm not growing professionally. And I'm in an environment where I could, like this could grow me professionally, but because of the boundaries that were around in terms of policy or, discipline or whatever, it's like a barrier. So I was like, I gotta
all
go.
the red tape.
Yeah. Thank
And then
you. Red
no
tape.
one talks about the nepotism that is inside of schools.
Oh,
Ooh.
1,000.
And the nepotism of people who do not know how to do their jobs getting promoted into jobs that are crucial for a school's success. And then not having, especially charter schools, not having those checks and balances in place to be able to stop the madness, to be able to say, we have to test this. We have to No, we don't. Like, why do we try and fix shit that's not broken?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why the hell?
Correct.
If we have this reading program that we are producing 95% readers by
Yeah.
third grade,
Yeah.
why are we switching to this box program
Yeah.
that makes no sense and doesn't have any connection towards real learning?
But
Like,
why? Why do they do that?
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Oh, because you get money.
Well, and I
Okay.
think it's like they're trying to prove some point. Like I read something the other day that like equity is better than equality in education.
Yes.
You know, if you try to make
where'd you read that? I
everything
feel like
equal,
I've heard that too.
Agreed.
It's one of my books that I'm reading that
Oh,
I recommended to you and you didn't
I don't read.
You know, so it's like if you try
Audiobooks.
to make everything equal, then you're just doing a disservice to like so many kids instead of making it equitable.
Oh, wait, it is. Wait,
The boy crisis.
anxious. Wait,
No, it's the boy crisis.
That's a
okay.
different-
Wait,
okay.
can we? I'm gonna side note on that.
Okay.
So when you were talking about these kids that you would see go through, you know, K through 12, and they're falling off track from a young age, and then they just continue to fall.
Yeah.
Would you tend to see that happen more to boys or girls?
Oh God, here we go.
Yeah. Here we go.
I think that of course it's boys. Of course it's boys because boys are so underrepresented in schools.
Yes.
And I think that the boys that they do allow in schools, I think the men that become teachers are not the same quality and caliber of men that became teachers 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that we don't have great role models.
Yep.
And men and women that are teachers.
Yes.
I think that we get these kids that are super young and super stupid. That don't have any life experience, that think they know everything,
Correct.
Yes.
and they
don't
come
wanna
in,
work either.
Ching ching, and they've got this book that tells them this is how I teach, and they've got this line, and you know, people who become teachers, they're type A generals, and those are the women that become teachers. Those are the women like white general A, you know, type A women are in education, and they are little fiefdoms. They are little kingdoms. They become. This is my philosophy only. But they become teachers because they have control issues. And it's the only place in their life where they can completely control it.
Lord.
And I think that boys get screwed.
Yep.
And I think that boys get screwed because there's very few women out there that truly, honestly, and deeply want to empower men.
Yeah.
Because I think that women feel, as a whole, oppressed by men. Like, and I don't want to make it into that because it's not that, but there's so many aspects that come into a classroom that it's naive to think that it's just this, it's just that, it's not. It's a melting pot of crap.
Yeah. Correct.
And, you know, even as like we talk, my bread and butter was neurodivergency. And I'm going to tell you, I did executive functioning, it's called academic support, and it was executive functioning. I was like time management, get your assignment in on time. Let's do this outline. It was the human skills of teaching, right? And
well, it's the basis. It's the foundation
it's
to
what
learn.
we should be actually teaching instead of all this other crap. Like things that you can Google should not be taught in a classroom. To the point, like learn how to Google. Yeah. But the content that you can get,
you can't absorb content if you
don't know how to access it.
Correct.
Like, it's crazy, and I think that. Absolutely, without a doubt, the majority of kids that I had for the 10 years in my academic intervention class were boys.
Yeah.
And
well,
it
they're
was
bigger. You know, it's like, I mean, I'm going to say like the wrong word,
Go for
psychiatrist. But now I just forgot what I was going to say.
Well, okay, so I have been on this research kick about what's happening to boys in education.
Oh, it's deplorable.
It's so sad.
Deplorable.
And I can say this like as a woman, you know, I am a woman, I am a feminist, you know, but I can still say that like the education system is failing men, and that
it's failing everybody.
It's failing everybody.
Let's not. It's
failing everyone.
It's obviously.
Lauren,
What? I'm sorry.
No, it's
This is my
no.
pick.
I know. It's your but yeah, go.
It's okay. It is failing everyone, but like research is showing that boys are rapidly declining, you know, compared to girls.
Yes.
What do you mean by declining?
In terms of like graduation rates,
College enrollment.
Yeah,
it's big.
Being able to get jobs,
Dropouts.
Yeah,
it's
significant.
And suicide rates,
and substance use,
huge issues with substance abuse. And I mean, because we started early, like, oh, kid, you can't sit still, take an Adderall, or let's get you some medicine so you can do better. So we tell our kids at ages of 10, 11, 12, you take this pill and it will make you better. Mommy will be happy with you. If you take this pill, you'll get great
4, 5,
grades.
6. Really.
I mean, it is. It's getting younger and younger. And it's like, can you really medicate this problem away? No, you can't.
No.
But can you medicate it so you're not bothered as an adult? Yes, you can.
Yeah. So like when I'm seeing, and like I'm literally seeing firsthand this rapidly increasing rate of younger and younger and younger boys. It's always boys being referred to me for behavioral problems, oppositional behavior, attention issues. Yep. And I'm looking at it like, okay, clearly it's not that like boys are getting worse. It's that
expectations are incongruent.
Yeah, like we're not educating them in the way that they need to be educated. It's not like the whole race of boys is biologically worsening over time.
It's also about value, right? It's also about value and what value inside of a school system you give certain people.
It's that culture.
Yeah.
You know, it's the value that, you know, kids know as young as kindergarten or third grade, like who's in the Bluebird reading group, who's in the Redbird reading group, right? Yeah. And it's just so developmentally crushing, right?
Yes.
And it's all about, like, truly, honestly, you can tell by third grade if a kid's going to be successful or not. Full stop. Like, really, like it's obvious, like, and a lot of that is because of the kid. Yeah. Like when you kick a kid down at such a young age, and it's mostly boys because women that go into education, they like their boxes. Yeah. They like their quiet. They like, this is my reading corner. Look how beautiful it is. Everything's off so great. And this over here, this is our learning corner. This is our timeout chair. Like everything's compartmentalized within your kindergarten classroom. I know you're visualizing your own kindergarten classrooms, right?
I love it.
And they have to have that. It's order. It's this. It's that. And if a kid goes out of the box because they're kids.
Yeah.
It's like,
then they're bad.
Oh my God, the sky is falling.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I think that this, and you know, I also, and anyone chime in, this neurodiversity thing, right? Like we're all neurodiverse.
Yes,
no
we are.
Brain is the same.
Yep.
Amen.
And we all learn differently. And so now we put a label on like this cluster of exceptionalities. Autism, OCD, SLD, specific learning. Anyways,
spectrum.
ADHD.
ADHD. Sorry. And God,
You got a frog up in there.
Cough it up, girl.
Hairball.
and we put them in a box because they don't fit in our box. And so, but the box that we want them to fit in is really just how our society is telling us how we should learn. Yep. Like it's different in France. It's different in Australia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is like America has decided that this is how you learn. And if you don't learn, then you're in this cluster of like neurodivergent.
Well, I think that that's one of the things, if you go back and you go back in time and you go back to public education and you go back to Ford, right? And the automobile industry and and they wanted people that came out of school to be happy with assembly line work. Yeah. And so they only needed limited skills to do that. And it's all about you want to produce people that will go with the flow. Yeah. That's what public education is.
Yeah.
Can you be productive? Will you be a non-aggressive citizen of the world? Will you comply with directions? Because that's what school is now. It's compliance.
Yeah.
It's not about learning anymore. It's about, can you comply? The people who do the best at school are the ones that know how to comply.
Yeah.
But here I'm going to push back because like this is like I am a, what's the word? I am a blank of gentle parenting. What's the word that I'm looking for?
Hater?
No, I mean, I was going to say something a little bit.
Critic.
No, critic, is that the right word?
Sure.
Whatever. So this idea of compliance, and whose fault is it? Like, okay, yes, that's 1000%, like a big, like push factor in schools because that's how you get a job. That's, you have to have that skill.
The ability to follow directions.
Yes. You have to have that. Yeah. To
You have
live.
to do that in a society that's a civilized society.
Yes.
You have to follow directions.
Listen,
Yes.
agree, and whatever. And so when we have and I don't even know why there are 18 different styles of parenting. Like, we're just raising our kids, y'all. Like, it doesn't need a fucking title. But when you have like this idea or philosophy of gentle parenting that is the complete opposite of that, then you're teaching your kids that what am I trying to say? Like,
well,
you're raising your kid. I know.
I think that for me, gentle parenting is such an effing cop out.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's look, you chose to have that kid. Nobody made you. Like, I know I'm being very gross and very general and the whole thing, but the issue is you have a kid.
Yes.
And it's your responsibility.
Your responsibility to teach them.
And gentle parenting to me is so time consuming that you
Unrealistic.
have to be a stay-at-home mom that has wealth to be able to do that gentle parenting.
And with a partner.
And actually grow a good human.
And like other, like,
and it's just like, you don't, I feel like it like.
And it doesn't even grow a good human. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. Because the things, like the strategies or interventions or things they're asking parents to do are incongruent with the brain development. So if you're putting all of this choice and responsibility on a 4-year-old, they don't have the ability to process that abstract. Like
not only that, a nonverbal message that you give that kid is that they have the power.
1,000. I'm not safe. You're not going to protect me. I can go as far as I want to go and know that something over here is going to stop me. I don't have to stop myself.
That's an education today.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea of bartering with kids to get them to turn in work is effing crazy to me. But that's what, that's a product of COVID, right? And I don't want to get it. We don't need to get it. Because that's when, to me, educators realized that they could go back, that they could take a break, that they didn't have to go 150 miles an hour and not get caught.
Yeah.
And so to me, COVID is where you're like, oh, look how easy these computer programs are.
I don't get this one. She had to get fired up.
iReady. Ooh, I love me some
iReady. Boo. Oh my God. What's the what's the math one?
Oh, I think that's it.
Oh, right? What's the reading one?
Oh my God, can't even tell you all of them. But when you can put, and some of it is rote learn, like put the rote learning, like do a fun program for multiplication. Right. But they're not even doing that shit. Right. Like that's the issue, is that there's so many fun things out there that I call them Pinterest teachers. Like you have these teachers that see these Pinterest boards and like, oh, this is a great idea for me, but not thinking
about the kids
going.
Yeah. And like who's
teaching?
And like who's in my classroom? How do they learn? What's their sensory need? Like all of that stuff. It's just like, oh, I want all every inch of the walls in my classroom to be covered with something. And then you have the kid who has a sensory processing disorder, and you're wondering why they're distracted. What? Take the shit off your fucking wall. How about that?
And what, in France and overseas, there's nothing freaking on the wall.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the wall.
Like, pay attention, and I have
calm.
thousands of shit covered. Like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. And it's not right. Like, the idea that you got to move so quickly. Yeah. It's so surface level. There's no deep. There's no depth.
Nope.
There's no idea. And then, to me, like a big travesty is like we can't even teach our kids how to disagree or how
correct conflict resolution,
because the teachers can't take
it. They can't do it either.
The teachers
they're modeling.
What is this for? What do you mean? What is this for? And you just sit there going, okay. So
I mean, listen.
I feel like we're in a free fall personally. Like I think that education is in a straight up free fall. I think that you've got the monkeys running the circus, and I think that there's what happens, and this is my perspective of since I've moved into this job, and I've kind of had to take a step back this year.
Remind me what it is now. Like, what's your role now?
My role now, I'm going back to middle school. So I'm a middle school inclusion teacher. I have no clue
so is
what that
tier,
means. I have no clue.
You don't know if it's tier 3 or 4?
I think that it's like tier 2 because I'm in the classroom and it's a middle school. I'm not super certain. Like I know that it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But I think that the point I was trying to make is, I don't remember the point I was trying to make.
I know, I'm good at that.
It's okay. But I think that what's happening to me is that what we find is there's so few really, truly talented people becoming teachers these days.
Because no one wants to do it.
And then if you do get these, like if you look at just the enrollment of teacher colleges has gone down like 50% in the last 10 years or something crazy. Like there's just, when my people start in our 50s, when we start retiring, the school system's screwed because there are no people coming up. Yeah. And so what's happening is that you're taking more and more people who don't have the quality, don't have the disposition to be a good teacher. And you're saying, well, don't worry, the computers, AI will teach them, because that's a future in education. is AI. If you don't think that AI in 10 years from now is going to be controlling most public schools, you're crazy.
Which is terrifying.
It is, because who controls AI?
Right, exactly. AI does.
Yeah, so it's terrifying. But I mean, that's the thing, is that you don't have enough people who can afford to be teachers.
Yes, correct. That is
And there's
correct.
not enough understanding within teaching, within administration. Like, I don't want a family at school. I don't want to be a part of the RAM fam. I don't want to be emotionally manipulated by a school to work more.
Yeah.
I don't want to be emotionally, and that's why people are getting out of education.
Yeah.
It's emotional manipulation, is that we could have a much easier life with more money
Yeah.
and less stress.
Yeah.
So F y'all, and you keep on putting more and more and more on those poor teachers that are trying.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
trying. It's setting everyone up to fail. This has been such a great conversation, and this is not your last time to be on the podcast, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so much more to come
Oh,
through.
yeah. We could go on
This
for
is
hours.
great.
Hours.
I know. So thank you, Sue, so much for
Yeah,
coming. I
absolutely.
cannot wait to.
Oh, we're done already?
It's.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at 39:47.
I know.
Holy cow,
I
y'all. That
know.
was
So
so
when are you
fun.
coming back?
Yeah,
I would love to
seriously.
come back. We'll have to see when I can get back. But the one thing I want to say is that, and I want to end with this, is that I think that most people in schools are there for good intentions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that on a daily basis, there are glimmers of light and glimmers of hope that are out there. But it's so hard to find them when all you do is think about, like,
Results.
Yep.
Yep.
I couldn't have said that better. Thanks, y'all.
All right.
Thanks,
so
Sue.
I forgot what we're supposed to say. Subscribe, follow the Little Brain Campaign on social media. Look out for our podcast.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hopefully, you know you're not alone and we're all in the trenches together.
We're always here, so reach out and let us know what's driving you nuts. We got you. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Little Brain Campaign on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Questions or topics you want us to tackle? Hit us up on all of our socials at the Little Brain Campaign. Keep trucking. You got this. We'll see you next week.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. Remember, no one size fits all. Always consult a professional for personalized advice.